I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, on this journey of life that we all take, driving down this road of our existence, sometimes we come across potholes and twists in the road we didn't expect. Well, that's when we all could use a little faith, and we could use a little inspiration as well. Well, look no further than a very inspiring book called More Pockets, Please, Forgotten Dreams. It is written by Ken Little, and we are delighted to have Ken join us here today on Spotlight. Ken, thank you so much for joining us.
Very pleased to be here, Logan. Good to talk to you.
Good to talk to you as well. You're joining us from the land down under, so we appreciate you getting up early to talk to us. Tell us, first of all, the title, More Pockets, Please, Forgotten Dreams. What's the title all about?
Well, the book is about my life story. It's a narrative which goes through my early days and then goes through to the time that I decided I wanted to become a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes us to my first school. And when I started at a small school in country New South Wales, I was a one teacher school and I was the teacher in charge. So what I had to do was to look after all the kids' needs, and one of them was to bring the firewood inside so we could keep them warm in winter.
Mm.
And unfortunately, out of the firewood, I got an infection in my hand, and that infection just sort of travelled to the spine, and I ended up one day staying with some friends down in a town called Wagga, and I woke up during the night and I was paralysed, and by morning I was totally paralysed from the chest down. So the story sort of goes through that, takes it to how I had to be operated on, and then any recovery I made, and then, how I tried to get my life back to normal. So as a narrative, it's just a story about somebody who had a bad luck along the way and then recovered and got on with his life, and had to go through different doors, of course, because the doors that I was going through had closed. But that's really on the surface. It's actually, I wanted to bring some issues to mind. And what I was talking about, the first thing that came to mind was that loss of identity. My whole life had been one of a sportsman. I played a lot of sport, played a lot of representative sport, and enjoyed the outdoors. And I was known as a fast runner. So when I was paralysed, that was part of my identity, and I lost that. So when you lose something, what replaces it? The other thing that came from it was isolation. I sort of had a family of sportsmen, and once you can't participate with them, then you become a bit isolated from people who were, part of your life. When that happens, then you've got to adjust to that. You've got to realise that that part of your life is gone, and maybe gone forever, and you've got to try and restart and try to do things in a different way, start things differently, look for different avenues. And so isolation, you also lose that essence of freedom. You lose your independence, and the choices you want to make in life, they become a lot more limited.
Yeah.
So they're the major issues I tried to get over with the book. But I think the positive side of it is restoration. And through all those difficulties, your life doesn't have to take a spiral downwards. And I found that because of things from my early life, because of my background, my Christian faith, and because of the resilience that I had developed over years in our family, I found that there were avenues to explore so I could get my life back in order. And continue to be a productive person, in the teaching trade that I had chosen.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, it was such a freak thing that happened to you, that you get an infection in your finger and it goes to your spine. It must have been hard for you for a long time just to wrap your head around it. I mean, a car accident is horrible, but it happens, and people live with the devastating consequences. But this was such a, innocent thing, an innocuous thing to like get a splinter, basically.
You're right. I was told that it's a very rare occurrence, like 1 in a million.
Hmm.
But I mean, I was 21 then, and I think I felt I was bulletproof.
Yeah.
And things that happened to you, I just sort of went with the punches. I didn't have any direction in life that I was pursuing some goal.
Hmm.
It's whatever door opened, I was happy to go through. Now, this to me was just another door closed, and I knew I just had to adjust my life and try to work around it. I was still able to teach, but
Right.
the resilience, I think, that you grow up with, and if you have a faith, and I had a strong Christian faith,
Hmm.
that's the strength that I could fall back on. So, yeah, being young, maybe I was not young and foolish. Maybe I didn't sort of feel the depths and the seriousness of it, but I was ready to just face the challenge and sort of get on and beat it. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to get beaten by it.
Yeah. Especially as an athlete, you're during the generation where we grow up, you get hurt, you're told to shake it off. Just keep on going. But tell me
Well,
what it was like writing the book. Was it therapeutic? What was it like exploring that journey all again, and then turning it more? It's a memoir, yes. It's a story of your life, yes, but it's also an inspirational book, kind of like a how to get by during hard times kind of book.
well, I wasn't actually going to write anything about it. I've written a couple of novels, and the idea was that person growing up on the northern beaches becomes a teacher, goes out to the country, and leaves behind his little surfy girlfriend and meets country girl out there. So well, I was actually trying to write a little bit about my thoughts and feelings through somebody else.
Hmm.
And so I wrote that, and I wrote a sequel to it. But during my time as a teacher, I found myself up at a place called Burke in outback New South Wales.
Mhm.
And while I was there, I met all these isolated kids. And these were kids who were doing correspondence work and School of the Air. So while I was there, I could see that their isolation was causing them disadvantages when it came to education. And the disadvantages for them was that they didn't have direct contact with their teachers. So I was travelling around to different properties and visiting them on their farms. And I was able to sort of work with them, and then I'd go to another property and work with some more kids. And then I'd go to another property, and then I'd stay there the night. Now I was travelling up to 200 miles west of Burke, just to visit kids in their isolation. So I got used to that, and I felt that these kids had been robbed for years of being able to have a really, good education. And through that, I met people up around Burke, and I caught up with them probably early 2000s and told them my story, because when they met me at Burke, they didn't know what happened to me. They just, this young teacher with a walking stick travelling around visiting kids.
Mm.
So when I caught up with them, they said, "How did you get there?" And because they ran a Christian community up there at Burke. And when I was talking to them, I told them the story, and they said, "Could you write that down for us,
Mm.
so that we could share that with some of the communities that we're starting around Eastern Australia?"
Mm.
So I thought, okay, so I wrote them about 20 odd pages, and then that became 40 pages. And I said, well, hold on, you've got to write a little bit more. So I kept on writing a little bit more. So it wasn't just about the accident. It
Right.
became early life, and then it became later. And one of the parents of one of the girls I was tutoring at this stage, she loved the story, and then she said, "Okay, you've got to write about this, and you've got to write about now. You know, you've got to write when you get married, and then you've got to write past that." So, from her encouragement, I decided that okay, I'll do a proper story,
Mm.
and I will try to do it in a way that my life wasn't robbed of what it could have been. From it, I was going to find something positive and maybe share my experiences. Not necessarily, I did this and this is the way you do it, because that's not what I'm trying to say. I was just trying to say, look, this happened to me. And after this happened to me, I tried to work out ways, I tried to find strengths to overcome it and not allow that to rob me of life. And I want to share this with you. So basically, that's why I wrote it. And the title, More Pockets, Please, that came when I started to get back into life after I'd gone through a year and a bit of rehabilitation. Um, a fella came up to me one time and asked me if I would help him coach some rugby sides. Now, he remembered me because I'd played a game or two for his team. And I was very dubious because these kids or these fellas in the side remembered me when I was, I suppose, a top flight rugby player. And I thought, oh, you get a bit sort of scared about, what do they think of me now? I've got a walking stick and I'm struggling to get around. So anyway, he asked me to come down, and the blokes just sort of accepted me straight away. And, I had this big reputation. So as soon as I got there, I felt accepted. And so over the next year or so, he gradually disappeared out of the club and he left it with me. And I had two senior men's rugby teams to coach. But I was starting to feel more and more at home. Look, this is what I can do. But what I had to do, I had to manage them and I had to coach them. And so what I did was I always had a notebook, and then I was writing things down, and then I had a clipboard and I was writing things down, and then I had other notebooks. And then the more I got involved, the more I brought pens and notebooks and papers and sheets for enrolments, for players. And I kept on sticking them in pockets. And the clothes I was wearing, I was running out of pockets. So I thought, I really need more pockets to put things in. So when I was thinking about a title for the book, I remembered that. And I thought, well, that's the time when I thought I'm ready to step out of being a victim. Not that I felt I was a victim during my life, but I was willing to step out and actually get back into life in a positive way. So More Pockets, Please. That's where the title came from. The second bit, which was Forgotten Dreams, to me, that was the negative side of it.
Mm.
Because dreams that I think that I never really thought about, but were there, and which I remembered years and years later. I remember, in fact, one thing I always remembered was when I was running a final of the 200 metres for state schoolboys. And I was always running around the track in that last bend, looking inside at another fella. He was looking at me. I was looking at him. And it was between us as to who would come third and have his name in the paper. And I remembered that. And I regretted the fact I didn't push hard enough. So I came fourth. So I remembered things like that. And these are things that came to mind. And just the thought of pushing a little bit harder in life, and when I felt that, yes, I'm ready to get back into life, just push that little bit harder, because if you push out that door, it will open. You just got to have the resilience and something that you believe in. because I didn't want life to be robbed. I think every life, we don't want to be robbed of our potential. And I just wanted to share that with people, just encourage them.
You've done that. Your eloquence right now is also found in your book. It is inspirational. It's called More Pockets, Please, Forgotten Dreams. It's written by Ken Little. It is highly recommended. You can download it online. You can order it on Amazon. And it is quite a read for yourself, for somebody you love. It'd be a great gift. And you'll be giving the gift of inspiration and never giving up, and keep on pushing and pushing and pushing until you break through. And what I like to say, Ken, is sometimes if your life doesn't turn out exactly as it's planned, doesn't mean your life is not exactly as it's supposed to be.
No, that's correct. Look, when you're young, you're full of hopes and ambitions. But with me, I wasn't an ambitious person. I didn't see a goal at the end. I think I believe that part of life is the journey. And your character is sort of molded by experiences you go through, and then by the person you become. And I always felt that the thing about life is it's not for us. It's a gift for us. And what are we going to do with it? Are we going to try and share it with us? Are we going to try and help other people in life? And that's what I felt. I mean, I remember seeing a film about what's life, and it was called The Pursuit of Happiness. And I thought, I don't think that quite gels with me. I mean, you see, if I'm happy, usually somebody else is sad. If my football team wins, then the opposition supporters, they're not happy, they're sad. If there's a serious accident, or something like your recent hurricane down in Florida, Hurricane Ian, people die, and there'll be a lot of people who'll be happy to hear that their relatives and their loved ones survived. But what about the other people whose loved ones died? I mean, so happiness to me, it's got two sides to it. So if people are pursuing that, it's like an emotional thing, like a roller coaster. Your happiness goes up and down, but it's not something that is a constant.
Sure.
The thing I sort of feel, it's a selfish sort of indulgence. It's an emotion, and you shouldn't be controlled by your emotions. I feel there's something far deeper than happiness. I feel it's joy, and joy has a spiritual dimension to it. It sort of maintains you through the difficult times. It keeps you going when you just feel like giving up. It doesn't ride the roller coaster of emotion. It is something far deeper. So that's where I think life is about. It's about having a joy. You need a really firm foundation to have this spiritual joy in your life.
Absolutely. Well said. And thank you so much for joining us here today, Ken. Much appreciated.
Logan, it's been my pleasure. And hi from sunny Sydney in Australia, and I wish you all the very best.
Yes. And I wish you a very sunny Merry Christmas as well in beautiful Sydney.
Thank you very much. And to you too.
Thank you, sir. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.